Transcontinental bike check. Here we go. I just returned home from Romania last night. Got in late last night. Finished about a week ago in Constanta, the Transcontinental Race, number 11. Took me just over 13 days to complete the race from Santiago de Compostela in northwestern Spain all the way to the coast of the Black Sea in Constanta, Romania. That was good enough for 25th place out of about 400 starters, so was really psyched about that, especially for my first kind of long distance road ultra. And so I figured I would just kind of walk through everything I brought with me for the most part and do a little bit of a bike check. So I just built up the bike, unpacked it, got a little bit mangled in the return flight. Luckily, everything is in one piece, but I haven't basically touched it since I finished the race about a week ago. So this is a Specialized Diverge STR gravel bike, so it has a little bit of rear suspension, just like a little bit of flex in the front and the back, and rocking with a SRAM Axis drivetrain, so wireless shifting was pretty flawless throughout the whole thing. Was having a bit of weird creaking in, I think, the through axle or the cassette free hub something from basically like the second day, which was kind of annoying, but it didn't seem to make much of a problem in terms of the performance of the bike. Otherwise, everything was great. I brought 3 Axis batteries, ended up only using 2, just kind of swapping between them and charging them up as I needed. They lasted a long time. And I didn't have to change brake pads. I used the metallic brake pads from SRAM, and they lasted the whole time. Probably could have swapped out the front set, but was able to make it through. Tires and wheels, I was on Hunt, kind of like gravel rims with Continental GP 5000 all season, 35 millimeter all season tires, tubeless. Amazing tires. There was quite a lot of gravel in this race, not only kind of required by the mandatory parcours and sections of the race, but also just in my route, I opted for a little bit more gravel to kind of cut some mileage and make a little bit more of a direct route. I did have a puncture in the last 24 hours, the last 500 kilometers. Managed to, I don't know if you can see this, but basically managed to plug the main hole, but then got a little bit of a slow leak, slow puncture at the rim, which I was nervous about because I didn't want to put a tube in, knowing this was about 500K from the finish. And in the last probably 100K, there was a pretty big, rugged, rough gravel section. So I basically held it together with a mix of duct tape and super glue and electrical tape, and managed to pump it up. Oh, and also some chewing gum to basically kind of nurse it all the way back to the finish, and had to pump up quite a lot. So that's basically the frame. Had some Profile Design aero bars on here as well. And then for GPS navigation, I have the Coros Dura. Amazing battery life, really nice, kind of simple design. Wasn't a huge fan of some of the navigation, like design, setup, functionality in a lot of the cities. Got quite confused sometimes, but overall really nice. For lighting, I used 2 of these Phoenix BC26R lights, which I used on the Divide last year and on Smoke and Fire and some of the other things I've done. They worked really well. Brought some spare batteries with me, and then I also had, as a backup, this Phoenix headlamp, which I ended up using a decent amount just for like off the bike stuff, but also if these died, it was nice to have that option. I'll start with this rear saddle pack. So this was kind of my stuff that I didn't really need too often. So in here I had my down jacket, or I guess it's a synthetic Patagonia puffy jacket, a little bit overkill for this race because it was quite warm in Europe, but I ended up using this quite a lot, like at night and in some of the colder sections in the morning in the Pyrenees, for example. It was nice to have. It's also where I kept my spare bib shorts, so I brought 2 pairs of bibs that I would rotate through quite often so I could wash and just keep everything clean and have a different chamois to just kind of keep the butt happy. I also had my sleep system in here, so I brought with me this lightweight kind of emergency bivvy, so it's got the foil inside to trap the warmth, but packs down really small, very lightweight. And then along with that, I had a silk sleeping bag liner, so just a little bit of extra warmth and just to kind of have sort of a blanket. And then I had a lightweight sleeping mat. So this is a Thermarest Uber Light pad. Not my favorite. I don't think I will use this too much again. It's a shorter length, and I've had a lot of problems with it leaking air and just not being super durable. So for longer stuff, I just think it's a little risky. It's light and packs down small, but I think it sacrifices just durability. Along with that, I had this like Tyvek like small little ground cloth that I would use to put down the mat and the bivvy just in case there was any sort of sharp objects and things. And then an inflatable pillow. This also leaked quite a lot. I think there's a hole in it somewhere. I've used this for many years, so it's probably time to replace it at some point. I only slept out a couple of nights in Italy, actually, and was perfectly warm and fine, but mostly was just in hotels. So this was kind of like a backup sleep system just in case, and was able to just kind of get by with mainly hotels and guest houses. That's it. This is an Apodura saddle pack. It's actually not my favorite. It was a little bit cramped. It's a little bit annoying to pack everything in there. It's nice for a small amount of stuff, but you actually can't really fit that much in here. So I think I'll be going back to my tail fin for some of the longer things. Okay, now onto this sort of frame pack. So in the frame pack is kind of where I would keep a lot of my like clothing layers. So I had this Gore-Tex Shake Dry rain jacket. Use this a lot. This was kind of on and off all the time, just as sort of like a wind barrier. I also got a lot of rain early on in the race, kind of on the coast of Spain. There was one day where I had basically 10 hours straight of pouring rain through San Sebastian, Bilbao zone. So that was really useful, kept me dry, and then I could layer that with my down jacket to just get some extra warmth. Like I said, here's the headlamp. I also had these Velaccio UV arm sleeves. So these were just really lightweight arm covers that protected the arms from the sun when it was really hot and sunny. I used these a mix. I didn't use them a ton. I ended up just kind of going for sunscreen because these, while they were nice to block the sun, they kind of didn't it didn't help me stay cool that much. I preferred just having the bare arms with sunscreen. They were nice on some days and just to not have to worry about sunscreen, but yeah, I probably wouldn't take those again. This is my vest or gilet, just a windproof, lightweight vest. I used this a fair amount. It was a little bit kind of not super relevant because it was either like quite cold or not, or super hot. So I just ended up using mostly the rain jacket as the full sort of wind layer if I needed it. This was probably my favorite piece of clothing kit, actually, that I brought, that I ended up using a ton. This is like, it's called a Burner by Albion. It's like this really lightweight, packable, square rectangle of insulation, like Pertex insulation, and it folds down super small. You can just stick it in your pocket. And basically, you just stick it under your jersey, under your bib straps like this, and it just adds a layer of insulation really quickly. You don't have to like deal with putting on and off jackets. This was really great for, I would just pull this out and stick it in my shirt without even having to stop over the tops of climbs, going into descents, and it just kept the core temperature really warm. A big piece of these ultras is just maintaining and regulating body temperature, core temperature. So I use that a lot, especially at night, and just to kind of keep the chill away, so that, because a lot of times you're building up a lot of sweat, a lot of cold with just your base layer and jersey, but then that kind of helps to trap that body heat in. A couple other things. Let's see. Oh, here's my Transcontinental Race cap. I didn't use this a lot. This mostly just sat in the bag unless it was raining or something, but I don't love cycling caps typically, so I didn't really use that. I did bring these Outdoor Research rain mitts, these kind of over mitts that are waterproof as a backup. I didn't end up using them. Maybe I used them once briefly in the rainstorm, but these are just a backup in case it got really wet or really cold. They just provide a nice layer of protection against the rain. So that's it for the frame pack. In here, I kind of was transferring in and out a lot of things in here in this top tube pack. This was mostly kind of things I just needed quickly at hand. So a lot of times it was either my electronics. So I brought, obviously, yeah, I'm not going to like go through all these, but cables, a charging block, Europe adapter, many different cables. I brought my Axis battery charger. I had 2 power banks, 10,000 milliamp hours. I also brought this microphone, which I'm using right now, but that's what I recorded my little daily podcast on. So this would mostly stay in here or here throughout the day because I didn't really need it a ton, but I would keep like 1 or 2 of my power banks up here with a cable attached just for quick charging. I had a spare Axis battery in here. I had a little tube of electrolyte tabs. I actually brought 2 tubes of these, but only used like half of one, so a little bit overkill there. I had in here my multi-tool, so really good quality Crank Brothers multi-tool. Use this a lot just to like take wheels off, deal with stuff. I also had my Dynaplug, which I only used the last day. So this is obviously a tubeless plug repair kit. I brought 2 of these small Wolf Tooth WT1 chain lubes, a little toothbrush for cleaning the chain, and a rag for doing the chain lube. That's pretty much it. I ended up buying some super glue in the last day for repairing that tire. And so and then I would also put like sunscreen in here, lip balm, which I don't have handy. And then more clothing stuff. I usually would just keep my knee warmers and arm warmers attached up here onto my aero bars just for quick access. So I would just wrap them around. So arm warmers, knee warmers, I would be taking these on and off all the time because I just prefer to keep the arms and knees especially a little bit more conservatively warm, even when it's not super cold, just to kind of keep the blood flow going. Like I said, regulating temperature is super critical. I find that I get pretty sore knees if I don't take care of keeping them warm, so I would have those on and off all the time. And then lastly, up here I had a small Apodura sort of bag attached to the aero bars, just kind of minimalist to keep it simple. Here I had toiletries and like meds, bandages, first aid kit, stuff like that. I had my rain gloves and warm weather gloves. These are just some like Showers Pass merino waterproof gloves. I used these a fair amount, especially when it was raining. What else do I have in here? So I had a little pouch in here, and this would kind of range like what I needed, but I had a little thing just with spare socks. I had my short finger gloves. I ended up losing one of my gloves in Italy somewhere, so I didn't end up using gloves too much. And then some just various, like another pair of socks, some merino hand liners for gloves. I never use these, and a buff, never use that. So it was quite warm the whole time, but just nice to have those extra pieces of safety for warmth. I had shifter blips up here that paired with the axis derailleur, so I could shift from up here. I had a little Peak Design phone mount up here on the aero bars, which is really nice, so I could just magnetically really quickly basically pop the phone on and off, which is really nice for navigating and routing with Google Maps in towns to find a hotel or restaurant, whatever, and as a backup navigation device if my Coros broke for whatever reason. I also had a bell required by the race, so that was good. That's pretty much it for here. I had two, as required by the race, 2 rear lights. So 2 of these Lezyne rear blinky lights, and 2 water bottles. And the nice thing about this frame is it has this internal storage. So in here I had 3 inner tubes. I had 1 super lightweight Tubolito. I had this little pouch of my repair kit, which I ended up not really needing much out of here except for some of the tubeless repair kit stuff. I also had an air tag in here to just keep my bike knowing where it is at all times for the travel and just in case someone tried to take it. So didn't use too much of that, luckily. And then I also had 2 normal butyl spare tubes in here. So really nice to have that internal storage as well. I had an Ergon SM Pro saddle. Same one I used on the Divide last year. It's not perfect, but it works quite well for me. Had a little bit of saddle sore issues, but was able to manage them. Some sit bone pain, but that's to be quite expected, I think, on such a long ultra. It didn't slow me down too much. I just had to be really diligent about hygiene and, you know, kind of managing it off the bike, but was able to kind of keep riding. Attached on the left side here, which you probably can't see, ended up coming in quite handy, this high volume frame pump. I debated about bringing my smaller one or the big one. Luckily, I brought this big one because, like I said, I ended up having to pump up my tire in the rear in the last 500K, the last like day, 2 days basically, almost every like 10 to 15 kilometers, which was quite annoying, but it made it really fast to do it, only like 20 or 30 seconds with this higher volume pump. So I would recommend that if you're running bigger tires and anything. What else? Yeah, that's pretty much it. I also brought a Albion visibility, like high vis orange hydration vest with me as well. The race requires some sort of piece of high vis for night, but also just in general, I wore it all the time. I had a 1.5 liter bladder in there, and it was also nice for storing extra food and drinks and small pieces of equipment, things that I needed throughout the day. So I used that a lot. And other than that, I brought 2 pairs of bibs, 1 jersey, 1 base layer. And that's everything that took me from initially like almost the full length of Portugal to Santiago de Compostela, all the way across the European continent in the Transcontinental Race. So I hope this was helpful and interesting, and yeah, an amazing experience. And I will be sharing more about it in maybe a podcast or something, but that's basically the gear setup for the event.